The winter wind screamed across the high plains of Arizona Territory, slapping snow against the crooked boards of Elijah Kane's barn, as though the storm itself wanted to be let inside. Elijah, a broad-shouldered cowboy with a reputation for riding alone and speaking even less, pushed the barn door open with his gloved hand, planning only to check the horses and toss another armload of hay. But the instant he stepped inside, the air felt different, charged, tight like a bowstring pulled too far. One of the horses snorted uneasily. Elijah narrowed his eyes, listening. For a long, silent moment he heard nothing but the wind and the slow shifting of hooves on straw. Then he saw her, crouched behind a stack of grain sacks, wrapped in a tattered blanket and clutching a small knife that trembled in her grip. Was an Apache woman, young, exhausted, her dark hair tangled with snowflakes, her chest rising and falling too fast. Her eyes locked onto Elijah's like a cornered doe ready to bolt or strike. He didn't move. He didn't draw his gun. He simply studied her, realizing she wasn't there to steal a horse or cause trouble. She was running from something or someone. "I won't hurt you," Elijah said slowly, raising both hands to show they were empty. She didn't answer. She just glared. Her body set in a way that told him she'd been afraid long before he opened that door. You're freezing," he said. "And you're bleeding." He pointed to the thin line of crimson, soaking through the blanket where it wrapped her shoulder. She flinched as though the mention of it hurt more than the wound itself. Elijah walked carefully, step by step, and when he was close enough to see how badly she was shivering, he lowered himself to one knee. "Name?" he asked quietly. Silence. Her grip on the knife hardened. Elijah didn't push. He only set his coat beside her, a thick wool coat warm from his own body, and moved away. The woman stared at it as if it were a trick, but eventually, slowly, she reached for it. When her fingers brushed the fabric, something inside Elijah eased. She was scared, not dangerous. Hungry, not hostile. Alone, not an enemy. The storm raged outside through the night, and though she kept her distance, Elijah noticed her eyes following him as he fed the horses, checked the lantern, and settled down by the stall to wait until morning. Near dawn, she finally spoke, her voice soft and cracked. "Naili," she whispered her name. Elijah nodded. "Elijah." She held his coat tighter. He offered her food bread and dried venison, and she accepted it with the hesitation of someone who had learned never to trust, kindness without a price. But Elijah didn't ask questions, didn't demand answers. Something told him she'd speak when she was ready. And she did. Bit by bit, like a wounded bird testing its wings, she revealed that soldiers had raided her band near the border, accusing them of aiding fugitives. Her parents were gone. Her brother taken. She had escaped only by running into the storm, hiding wherever the land allowed. Elijah listened without interrupting, his jaw tightening with every detail. He'd seen the army break treaties before. He'd watched good families destroyed, because the world refused to see them as human. When she finished, she looked away, expecting judgment or worse, indifference. Instead, Elijah stood, brushing hay from his coat. "Pack your things," he said firmly. Naili froze, fear flashing through her eyes once more. But Elijah stepped forward and extended his hand, not commanding, not dragging her, but offering a promise. "You're coming home with me." She blinked at him, stunned. Why? And Elijah, the cowboy known for silence, gave the longest answer he had given anyone in years. "Because no one's going to hunt you on my land. Because you deserve a roof over your head and a fire to sleep beside. And because a woman who survives all that, she shouldn't have to survive alone." Naili didn't take his hand immediately, but she didn't refuse it either. And when the storm finally broke, when the first pale light crawled across the horizon and softened the frost on the barn door, she stood slowly, painfully, and gathered the little she had. Elijah opened the door for her. She stepped out into the world again, this time not running, not hiding, just walking beside the one man who had looked at her and seen a person worth saving. Elijah's ranch sat in a secluded valley between twin ridges, a place where morning sunlight dripped like honey over the grass in evenings, were spent listening to the coyotes sing in the distance. For the first time in months, Naili slept in a real bed, narrow, cot in the spare room, but the safety of four walls felt strange to her. She woke before dawn, staring at the ceiling, listening to the sounds of a household she wasn't sure she deserved to be in. But every morning Elijah greeted her with the same calm nod, the same steady presence. He taught her how to grind coffee the way cowboys liked. It's strong enough to wake a dead moulin, she taught him the names of the birds that perched on the fence posts at dawn. Days passed in an unspoken rhythm. She helped mend tack, carried water, fed the chickens. He chopped wood, fixed the roof, repaired the corral. Neither talked much, but the quiet between them was never uncomfortable. It felt healing, yet safety in the frontier was always temporary. One afternoon, as Elijah hammered a loose board back into the porch, dust clouds appeared on the horizon. Riders, five of them, fast, determined soldiers, or scouts pretending not to be. Elijah felt his spine turn to stone. He'd seen this kind of ride before. They were hunting something, or someone. Nayeli froze when she heard the hooves. Her breath vanished. Her hands shook. Elijah stepped in front of her instinctively, his eyes narrowing. Inside, he murmured, but Nayeli shook her head. "They'll search," she whispered. "They always search." Elijah's jaw flexed. He reached for her. His rifle, the old, reliable Winchester he kept for wolves and, when necessary, men. When the rider stopped at the fence line, the leader lifted his chin arrogantly. "We're looking for an Apache fugitive woman," he announced. "Young, injured, dangerous. You seen her?" Elijah didn't blink. Didn't twitch. "No," he said. "Just me here," the soldier smirked, scanning the property. "We'll check for ourselves." Elijah stepped off the porch, planting himself squarely in their path. "My land," he said quietly. "My rules." The air tightened. The soldiers exchanged glances. They didn't fear Elijah, not yet, but they also didn't know him. Not the way the frontier did. The way the outlaws he'd buried in unmarked graves did. Elijah Kane had a reputation for ending conflicts fast and permanently. "We're not leaving without a search," the soldier insisted. Elijah lifted the rifle, not aiming, not threatening, just holding it like truth made of steel. "Then you're not leaving at all." For a long moment, the world held its breath. Then the soldier realized something. This cowboy wasn't bluffing. And the valley was isolated enough that whatever happened here would stay here. With a sour scowl, the leader spat into the dirt. "If she's here, you're harboring a fugitive," he warned. "If she's here," Elijah replied coldly, "she's under my protection." The soldiers turned their horses and rode off, muttering curses that disappeared into the wind. When they were gone, Elijah finally exhaled. He turned to Nayeli, expecting fear in her eyes. Instead, he found something else, stressed, raw, and trembling, but real. "Why do you risk so much?" she whispered. Elijah shrugged lightly. "A man's duty is to protect what's right, even if it costs him." Nayeli stepped closer, her voice barely a breath. "No one has ever protected me." Elisha didn't respond, but the look in his eyes told her everything she needed to know. Over the next weeks, she grew stronger. Her wound healed. Her laughter, soft, hesitant, returned. And Elijah found himself watching her with a quiet awe he didn't quite understand. But before either could name what was building between them, danger returned. Not soldiers this time, scouts from her own band. Survivors. They brought news. Her brother lived. Her people needed her. Their camp was relocating north, but they feared she had died in the raid. Nayeli's heart tugged in two directions: family and safety, heritage and healing. The past that had shaped her and the man who had sheltered her. She told Elijah she had to go. Elijah nodded, but his eyes dimmed. The way a lantern dims before it surrenders to darkness. The day she left, Elijah saddled a horse for her, tightening every strap as if doing so would keep her from riding away. "You've got a home here," he said quietly. "If you ever want it." Nayeli looked at him for a long, unbroken moment. Then she touched his hand, a small gesture, but one that made his breath stop. "I will come back," she whispered. "This place. He healed me." She rode off into the rising sun, her silhouette merging with the amber glow. Elijah watched until she disappeared. Weeks passed, then months. And just when the winter winds began to return on a morning, much like the one when he'd first found her in his barn, there she was, riding down the valley trail, her hair dancing behind her, her eyes fixed on him like she'd been searching for this moment ever since she left. Elijah stepped out onto the porch, stunned. Nayeli dismounted, walked straight to him, and said softly, "I packed my things." Elijah's throat tightened. She smiled. "I'm coming home with you." And the cowboy who had once lived a life of silence and solitude felt something warm, fierce, and extraordinary take root in his heart, something he wanted to protect for the rest of his days. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more powerful American frontier tales. Your support helps these stories reach more people. Don't forget to like, comment, and share.